Hello my fellow creators and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Yvette and I am part of the Scrappiness creative crew. Today I'm going to play with a couple of the items from the newest release. I'll be using the A2 Qbert Quilt backdrop die, and I'll also use a sentiment from the Farmhouse Sentiments Stamp Set and the coordinating dies as well. Now, when I first saw the Qbert Quilt backdrop die, one of the first things that came to mind was stained glass. I'm going to be using my Versamark watermark pen as well as my Versamark watermark ink pad to do some heat embossing. I'll be using Gina K's Fine Detail Silver embossing powder and some masking tape. I'm also going to use my Zig Clean Color watercolor brush pens and a couple of Spectrum Noir sparkle pens. So let's get started. Here you can see I'm cutting out my cardstock using that backdrop die, and this is a full A2 size die. And then I'm going to mask off the edges using some masking tape I had in my stash, and I'll just swipe the Versamark ink pad over the edges of this card panel. And this will give me the opportunity to do some heat embossing just around the edges of this card panel. So I'm adding that Fine Detail Silver embossing powder here. I'm brushing off any of the embossing powder that might have gotten where I don't want it, and then I'll go ahead and heat set that powder. Look how pretty that looks once it melts down. I'll be sure to link to Scrappiness in the description box below, as well as to all the products I've used in today's video. Sabroso Tony de nuevo. Ay, qué rico. Bueno, mira. Toca, toca, Tony. Habla. Now I'm going to go in with my Versamark watermark pen and trace around the star shapes that are embossed in the panel. I forgot to use my Telescopic embossing powder tool before I used my watermark marker. So let me go over that real quickly so that when I do use the watermark marker on my panel, the embossing powder only sticks to where I used my marker. Alrighty, let me go back over and re-outline and mark in some of those lines where I want the embossing powder to stick. So I'm going to go ahead and heat set that from both the front and the back. Now it's time to color. So I'm bringing in my Zig Clean Color watercolor markers, and I'll list the colors as I use them. And then I'm using my Spectrum Noir Crystal Clear brush pen to add sparkle to these watercolor colors that I am using. And I'm using a rainbow of colors to color these stars. I think it's just so pretty. And that embossing powder that I heat set really helps to keep my different colors in the different areas. It acts almost like a barrier between the sections that I'm coloring. And now for the remainder of the panel, I want it to look like clear glass almost, maybe a light blue tint on it. So I'm mixing up some of the Spectrum Noir Moonstone with some of the Crystal Clear, and that way I get a much lighter blue shade, and just brushing that over the rest of the card panel. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp out my sentiment, and I'm using the sentiment Think Happy Thoughts. And here you can see my little helper again, trying to help Grandma get her card made. My 2-year-old grandson just loves helping Grandma, so I just let him hang out with me when I'm making cards. Now, I did cut out a template using the die for the sentiment, and then I placed that over my sentiment that I've stamped and placed the die in there, and that gives me the perfectly cut die cut sentiment. Now I am going to add this to a black card base, but I want some of that black showing, so I'm going to trim just a bit of the edges from the card panel, still leaving the stitch detail visible, and that gives me just the perfect little matte layer behind my panel. Now, because the panel is a little bit warped, I am going to use this really strong double-sided adhesive I have in my stash, and that'll help to flatten it out. Now here I have the white crystal dual-ended embellishment pickup and die poker tool. This is very helpful for picking up small embellishments, for poking out any die cut pieces that get stuck in a fine detailed die, or for helping remove the release paper to your double-sided tapes. And then I'm going to bring in some of the Onyx Black Pearl Mix as well as the Classic White Pearl Mix and kind of just test them out on there and see which one I like better. So I'll add a few of the black pearls using my little pickup tool. And I do like the way those look, but let me test out some of the white pearls. And I do have to say, I love these triangle trays. They help to keep my little embellishments contained and make it so easy to put them back in their bag when I'm done. So as you can see, I preferred the little black embellishments on there, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and add. But I'm adding some varying sizes on there, and I'll add those using my Barely Art craft glue. And there you have my completed card using the A2 Qbert Quilt backdrop die and the Farmhouse Sentiments Stamp Set and coordinating dies. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I'd be thrilled if you subscribed to my YouTube channel or followed me on any of my other social media platforms. As always, have a beautiful, safe, and creative day. Thanks for watching. Bye!